also was giving his plan point by point, even went so far as to go over his tax plan because he was, just so hungry to have some free media time and to take advantage of the situation that he thought was going to be dire for the Trump campaign. But actually, I think it, in the long run, and I think we all can agree to this, turned out well for the Trump campaign, and he squashed them in the primary and won the state of Illinois. But I thought it was just absolutely disgusting to see them do that when they supposedly are conservatives. But this shows you that they're nothing but, and I mean, I'm just being bold here. Mm-hmm. This shows you that they have sold out to special interests, and this is why they do what they do. They wind them up, the elite, and this is what happens.
Exactly.
They take advantage of a situation like this. Yeah, it's terrible.
Exactly. You're listening to The Silent Majority here on New Media Patriot Radio. I'm your host, Chris, and on the Rebooting Liberty Hotline, I have Marcos Power, who's actually at the riots in Chicago, and my co-host for tonight, Magellan from the Magellan Show. Marcos, I want to ask you, do you feel that Ted Cruz, following up on this question, do you feel like Ted Cruz missed his Reagan moment where he could have stood up and said, hey, he could have stood up to this leftist communist movement and said, hey, no, that's not who we are. We have to stand together. You think he would have actually done a lot better last Tuesday if he would have stood up with Donald Trump? He would have been the only one that stood up from the GOP with Donald Trump and say, hey, no, this is not who we are, and realize what this movement was really about. You think that would have helped them a lot more last Tuesday?
Absolutely. Like right now, I believe that the bridges are burned between the Trump and Cruz campaign. That could have been his moment to kind of get back in. But it just goes to show that, most of these politicians out there, more or less, they want power. They're addicted to power. And they just want to win, and at any cost. He saw a way to try to get voters over to his side and make Trump look like the bad guy, which always backfires, Chris. You see it all the time.
Yep.
Everything they do against this guy just worsens. Trump just works in his favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens all the time, and they're not learning. It's been how many months now, and they're not learning that doesn't work. Why don't you join Donald Trump in the movement? Why don't you join him? And maybe you'll do a lot better. You have nothing to lose at this point, because he has no chance. He needs 85% of the votes. But knowing what's going on with the GOP, they're pulling out all the stops. We're going to be talking about that within the next couple minutes with my next guest. They're going to try to pull out all the tricks and stuff at the convention. But anyway, we're going to be talking about that. But I want you to talk about what happened outside, Marcos. What did you see? Did you see rioters actually stopping emergency vehicles from basically driving on the road?
I saw the clip on YouTube. I didn't personally see that. What I did see a lot of, though, was their lone solo Trump supporters. A lot of them are in 40s or 50s, just with a hat or a sign. And this mob of, 3 to 5 to 15 plus 18 to 20 somethings would surround them, yell, get out of here, racist, leave, swearing and cursing, basically chasing off the Trump supporters. And there were a lot of families and kids walking around having to hear this, and it was so packed that they had to go through these mobs and these crowds. So I felt okay there, but I felt worried for these other families and people that were there. They did try to shut down, Chris, the highway. I believe the cops got over there and blocked them before they actually got on the highway, though.
Okay. Do you think there was enough police force there to protect the Trump goers outside? Again, I see it all the time, and I see the way I see these rallies. And for instance, in Utah, during the Utah rally, these protesters actually got to the front of the door of the center. They wanted to break into the center there, the convention center. Do you feel that at this point the police, I'm very pro police. Do you think they have to organize this a lot better? These protesters were way too close to that entrance door. The law is, and it's a fire hazard to be blocking the doorway there. So do you think police have to up their game when it comes to protecting the rally goers at these Donald Trump events?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, Chris, when you walk outside of there, or when I walked outside of there, to the left, about a block down, was like a line of police with horses. and they gave them like 4 or 5 blocks for these protesters just to gather. So they were just there. The police weren't trying to break them up. They were giving them, like as they said, maybe in Baltimore or whatever, they gave them space to kind of go ahead and riot and protest. I did see something that the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, more or less told the cops to be hands off. So I don't know if that influenced it, but probably did.
Yeah, I heard that coming out of Chicago there. That basically, but if you look at it, it's been like that even here in New York City where I live. When Rudolph Giuliani was the mayor here, if you wanted to protest, you had to get a permit, okay? And you had only maybe a 2-block radius where you can protest. You weren't allowed to roam around the city, marching, blocking traffic. You weren't allowed to do that under Rudolph Giuliani. But under this administration, and de Blasio, these people are given free reign, and certain laws aren't enforced. For instance, you weren't allowed to block entrances because, again, it's a fire hazard. You weren't allowed to endanger the lives of people because you're blocking the exit of a location, and you weren't allowed to block streets and block emergency vehicles. That would get you in jail right away. And I think that the police have to step up and start enforcing the laws. Well, not the police, because they're basically giving the orders from up top, but these leaders have to say, hey, that's enough. Enough is enough. There's rules. There's certain rules that you have to follow. You are allowed to protest. Okay, I'm not saying you're not allowed to protest, but you protest in a peaceful manner where you don't put other people's lives at risk. What do you think about that, Magellan?
Well, I totally agree, and just kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, I just like to talk about Arizona for just a moment.
Sure.
And how Sheriff Arpaio handled the whole situation. They were blocking traffic and just causing all kinds of disruptions before his rally there on Saturday. But of course, he is a Trump supporter, and I think that he did a great job at trying to subdue and to call them protesters. And I know we have no other way to call them, but it's really a stretch because to tell you the truth, they're doing more than protesting. They are trying to block an event from happening. They're trying to intimidate, and we're seeing this in all the states where Trump is having rallies. Sometimes you have better police and law enforcement than others, but the truth of the matter is that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to intimidate. They're trying to make you think, okay, if I go to a Trump rally, I could get hurt. But they're the ones who are perpetrating this.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't isolated incidents on the Trump side where there might be individuals that could cause a stir. But if you really stop and think about it, these folks are going way beyond just their right to protest. And if it was on the other side, and like what happened in, I believe it was Ohio, just a couple weeks back, where this guy comes up and rushes towards the stage, and the Secret Service, they have to grab him.
Right.
If that had happened at a liberal rally, I'm sorry, but that kid would not have gotten off the same day. He would have been in jail.
Absolutely.
And everybody knows it, but it's gotten out of control. And it's gone from protest to total anarchy. And it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, before we finish up with Marcos Powers here, I also want to say that, that law, the H.R. 347 law, which makes it illegal, it makes it a federal crime to protest anywhere where the Secret Service are involved or protecting, a person. And I think that needs to start being enforced because, and guess who wrote that into law? Obama himself. So I think that needs to start. He should have been charged with a federal offense, which I think I read that's going to happen now. They're going to go forward with the federal offense. They're going to charge him with that. But I think that initially he got off with a slap on the wrist. But Marcos Powers, I want you to give everybody your Twitter feed, your Twitter account, and also where they can go and catch your some of your writings.
Thank you, Chris. So you guys can follow me at Left is Right, the number 4 now. So Left is Right 4 now. My website is purposetopower.com. So you can find me there, and we can be in touch through Twitter at Left is Right for now, and my website purposetopower.com.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for calling in, man. We'll be in contact, okay?
Thanks, Chris. Anytime you want to talk, man, I'll come on here.
You got it, brother. Thank you very much. All right, there you have it. You're listening to the Silent Majority here on New Media Patriot Radio. The number to call is 338-1775. Call in, ask a question, whatever you want, or comment. My next guest, I want to welcome in Victor. Victor basically had tweeted out some numbers, and he basically broke it down. He had some numbers where actually Donald Trump is outperforming Mitt Romney. And every time I hear people say Donald Trump cannot beat Hillary Clinton in a general, all I have to say is just look at the numbers, look at the turnouts of between the Democrats and Republican voters, and you see that the Democrats are not exciting their base. So at this time, I want to welcome in on the Rebooting Liberty Hotline, Victor. Victor, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great. I didn't realize that was you before. Sorry about that.
Right. Well, I was having some trouble with the connection anyway, so it was a good test run.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Silent Majority.
I'm looking at the numbers here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Can I go ahead and I want to kind of elaborate on what you guys just finished off with before we jump into the weeds with these numbers here. Is that okay?
Sure. No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Look, whenever you're talking about the riots and all the uprising, this never Trump movement, I don't know if it's the natural, just something deep inside of me, the Ron Paul that's hidden away in the back of my heart somewhere, from many elections ago. I don't know if it's something coming from that, but when I'm watching this and I'm observing this just as a normal guy, just watching several media outlets, mostly really pulling things up on the internet and watching things live streaming, which, by the way, I would recommend to all your listeners, stream the events live. Stay away from the pundits on the news. It's so much better live. You get the actual information. But I would put the blame, and I know everybody's one group's blaming Trump, one group is blaming the protesters, and of course I know where I stand on that, for obvious reasons. But to be quite honest, sir, where I would put the blame is Ted Cruz and his Never Trump movement, launching that and being the catalyst for the liberal progressives to actually use this wedge that has been placed in the Republican Party at this moment in the primary against us.
Right.
They're basically, in my opinion, the one who is to blame for this would be the Cruz camp. And if they're going to remedy this, they started this. If they're going to remedy this, it's in their best interest, the party's best interest, for the Never Trump movement to end out of that camp. The Cruz camp needs to issue statements. They don't want Cruz in the office. There's no way they're going to give Cruz this nomination. It's just unthinkable.
Right.
They hate Cruz almost more than they hate Trump in some regards. There's just zero chance of Cruz getting this nomination. Zero chance of that. So if he really wants a fair convention, if he really wants a fair nomination, his best interest would be to join Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Tag team with Donald Trump, get rid of the establishment once and for all. I just wanted to put that out there, that I don't really think the blame, of course, it's not on Donald Trump. And of course, these protesters are just despicable, absolutely disgusting to watch some of this go on. But at the same time, this is perpetrated out of the Cruz camp. He's acting as the catalyst that Hillary and these protesters, or disruptors as Trump calls them, they need. He's the catalyst for that. He's the wedge they're using against the party right now. And I think that right there is just telling, and it needs to end. Sorry, I went on a rampage.
Yeah, no problem. I said it on previous shows. I said if it wasn't for Donald Trump, we would be asking ourselves, how is Ted Cruz going to catch up to Jeb Bush? If Donald Trump wasn't in this race, I guarantee you it would have been Jeb Bush who we would be trying to get rid of. And thank God Ted Cruz and Ted Cruz supporters, I say it all the time, should be thanking Donald Trump, not going against him.
They should be, absolutely.
Period. So let's go on with these numbers.
I like
Go ahead, brother.
I like Ted Cruz's program. His policies. I absolutely love many of his policies, even though of late he just seems to kind of reflect Trump's policies. I don't know what that's all about, but I actually like his conservative values. I like the things that he has stood up for in the past, mostly. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, if I had to judge the character of the men, and Ted Cruz is one to talk about character an awful lot. I think Trump is doing a really good job at branding Ted Cruz, lying Ted. You know how I interpret that in many ways, and I like what he stands for. I like a lot of the things he talks about, and the way he's such a strong constitutionalist. But at the end of the day, he is a lawyer, and he does just seem a little sleazy. Like his tactics seem like a traditional politician.
I always say he puts the Harvard spin on everything. Everything's a poison pill. Everything's a Harvard spin. No, well, this and that, and 1 week he's saying we don't have an army to deport 11 million illegals, and then the following week, he's saying, listen, we're going to deport all these illegals, and we're not going to let them back in. He's saying Donald Trump said he's going to welcome them back in. I'm not about that. All of a sudden he's strong on immigration. But